There we go. Hey, how's it going? Saber Legion. Had some technical issues trying to set this up since I am not in my normal garage space that I am for my show Repost and Repost. I am here in my non-garage space, essentially what is my home office / bedroom. So, all right, welcome to the road to CombatCon. We are, it is the 28th. We are less than 2 months away from CombatCon. So we wanted to create a limited time weekly series leading up to CombatCon to kind of answer the questions that you had about CombatCon and, basically go over a whole bunch of different subjects and TSL5 specific ones as well. But we wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to ask the questions, review the videos, look at like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we're doing. Here's what gear check looks like. Here's a Q&A with Charlie. Here's a Q&A with Melody. We're going over line judging and all that kind of stuff. So it's to kind of answer all of those questions, whether it's your first tournament or your fifth tournament or your, first CombatCon or your 10th CombatCon. I forget how long CombatCon's been going, but I know it'll be if I'm including the virtual one. Yeah, it'll be 5th CombatCon for me as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. Can everybody hear me okay? I just want to make sure that that's happening because I am operating off of a new lav mic that I got. So I want to make sure that that's working. And we'll go from there. And the lighting is not stupendous, I admit. Sorry about that. I have my lights here, but they're not balanced right, so it's a weird shadow. So let me do this. So I didn't do my fancy captions, so I'll just have this up so everybody sees what's going on. So, oops, sorry. Sorry. Thank you for letting me know that it sounds good. I'm just, like I said, just getting everything set up here. So we are ready to go. And if you have questions, feel free to pop them in. And I will talk about what we're going to discuss today. All right, cool. And today we're going to discuss specifically some of the planning and tips, maybe even some like budgeting tips for going to TSL5, going to CombatCon. It's a big thing if you've never done it before, and even if you've been there, there's always tips you can learn from people that have been there to avoid some of those hurdles. So cool. There we go. Sorry, I'm just making sure everything is going live. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. All right, cool. And if you want to, I'm going to have names and stuff like that up here in the chat. If you're in the Facebook group and not on YouTube, you can say, like, for example, this one was from Jason. Sounds good. You go to, if you go to here, if you're on the Facebook and you go to this link, chat.restream.io/Facebook, and you enable your Facebook account to talk with Restream, I can show your name and profile so we can clearly see who's asking what question. Otherwise, I will just call it out in the chat. So that is working there. What is happening with that? Is everything else? Okay, sorry. There we go. Captions were just the auto-generated captions thing on I try to make sure that works, and it was just looking awful. That's probably just a Facebook bug. If that is a problem and you're looking at captions, please let me know. All right, I'm going to stop delaying. So anyway, all right, planning for TSL5 and CombatCon. There's a lot to plan together depending where you live, depending on how many people that are going. There's so many things that you can so many issues that you can run into as you're planning it out. So we just kind of Jason, I can hear you fine. Everything, well, you can hear me, I hope. Everything looks good, hopefully, on the YouTube end of things. So, planning for TSL5 and CombatCon, the big things, you know, we'll just start with that, and I'll work my way into like tips, tricks, other kind of stuff like that. The big things, obviously, how are you going to get there? Where are you going to stay, right? And how are you going to pay for it? Pay, I can't necessarily help you with that, but I can help with maybe some tips to keep the price of the trip lower, because it is Las Vegas. It is a money suck. That is the intention of the town, is to take away your money. So let's figure all this out and go from there. So, all right. Cool. And so what we're going to do is I will first talk about, hang on one sec here. All right. I'm going to do this first. So I'm going to try something here that I haven't done before with this system, and I will be sharing my screen. All right, let's see how this works. All right. I'm just sharing this. So, okay, cool. It is sharing it. I'm going to make sure it pops up on here, but obviously we are talking about CombatCon, so I want to make sure that it is visible. So I'm just making sure it pops up on here. Can you see that? That doesn't seem to be working. Okay, then it is not working. Oh, I see what I have to do. Ha, silly me. All right, there we go. That's the fancy way to do it. Just took a second to figure this out. All right, here we go. Got it. All right, so going to CombatCon, combatcon.com, right? How are you going to get there? How are you going to pay for it? You know, what you need to do, to all the things you need to get into place. That's the big thing you need to be concerned about, right? So obviously, you need to register for CombatCon to attend. There is a vaccination requirement for this event, and you can get all that information. They have a FAQ right on their page, but essentially, you're looking at, you know, you're vaccinated. You need to be vaccinated by, your second shot needs to be like by July 7th, I think is the exact term. That'll be 14 days before CombatCon, so you're ready to go at that point. And I assume more details will come out as far as how are they just showing cards at the entrance or something like that. That'll come later. Okay, here we go. Cool. Walk, never take a cab. Rent a car rather than cab rides. I will talk about that stuff. Okay, I will get to that. So, and who's their first con? Joe Blankenship. Okay, thank you, Joe. I'm glad you're excited about it. So, all right, if you haven't bought a pass yet for the for our Saber Legion tournaments for CombatCon, here's what you need. You need either a Warrior Pass or a Tournament/Rider Pass. The differences between the two. The only difference between those two passes is that if you have the Tournament Pass, you can only attend 4 classes. And then if you have the Warrior Pass, you can attend all the classes. So there are classes for all types of martial arts that take place throughout the whole weekend, stage combat, all kinds of stuff. That does not include panels. You can attend all the panels. It's just those intensive workshops where you're like going over, you know, a specific topic, interacting, you know, playing with certain weapons, that kind of stuff. Those classes are limited if you're on the Tournament Pass. So be mindful of like how much you can feel you can do and balance with the tournaments, because I know my experiences fighting in a lot of tournaments, I will not have the time to use my passes. The last class I attended was at TSL3, and I attended 2 classes. So just to give you an idea, and I had a Warrior Pass both of those years. So that's just something to think about, you know, when you do that. The next thing, so you see the price. If you reach out to your charter rep, you can get a discount on that. And there is a code. I don't know it, and if I did know it, I would put it in here. But your charter rep will know. I just don't know it off the top of my head. You can look at the HEMA tournaments and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to scroll down to TSL tournaments. Here's where you register for the tournaments in addition to the pass. $20 for each division, standard, exotic, women's, and 50 and over. So just keep that in mind to add those as well as the pass that you get. That's all I'm going to go into as far as there are lots of other classes, experiences, different things you can do. That's the only thing you need to do as far as registration. So, cool. You have that. Great. And they have these nice little tabs up here. You can look at the schedule for CombatCon, see what you can learn, what classes are going to be, what the tournaments are going to be, some of the different fun things like the Time Traveler's Ball and cosplay contests and stuff like that. Who's going to be attending instructor-wise, whether that be the virtual or the in-person. And when I'm going to go into the next one is where you can stay. I will go into travel stuff briefly as far as like flights, driving, car parking, that kind of whole thing. But I'm just going to go over this part. So, CombatCon takes place at the Flamingo, Las Vegas. If you do not have a room already, it is preferable that you book it through this site, the specific portal that they have that goes over to the Flamingo site, because basically you're talking about they give a discount, plus also they reduce the resort fee, and that's a fee that you pay per day to specifically stay in that hotel. And most Vegas hotels have it, but it reduces it from 35 to 20%, or $35 to $20 plus tax per room. So just keep that in mind. When you get a room at the Flamingo, you're going to pay a resort fee. But if you book through, say, like Caesars or Priceline or hotels.com or whatever, you're going to pay $15 more a night on top of whatever. So if you can get a better deal, make sure you're accounting for that $15 a night extra in the resort fee. So, and that gives you, the resort fee gives you things like admission to the fitness center, I guess local phone calls. Not that you really probably don't need to do that. Most people have a phone, but maybe. And then in-room internet access. So those are things you get are for single and double occupancy. Every person above 2 people, and I will tell you that is anybody. I went there with my, at the time, infant son to CombatCon in 2017. We had to pay for him. Even though we had our own pack and play, we had everything. He was just there in the room. Doesn't matter the age. $30 a day each person. Just keep that in mind. And that's a max of 4 per room, depending on the room, I think. But the main rooms are 4 per room. Check-in stuff, how you pay, that's all relative. So I'm going to talk about. Let's just double check. There's no comments. Nope. Okay, cool. And if there's questions about what I'm showing, let me know. All right. So I'm just going to point out a couple things. So they do offer the discount. They show you the event dates. They started on Tuesday. They ended on Monday. Obviously, the event runs from Thursday to Sunday as far as like CombatCon specific things. I don't know if there are Monday classes happening. Sometimes there are Monday intensive classes that you can sign up for. I saw 2 on there, but I know one is a night class. The one might be a Monday class. So, but I don't want to. But depending when you're coming in, keep in mind TSL tournaments will start on Thursday, and they will run until Saturday, and then Sunday is a free sparring day. So plan accordingly your travel based around that time. Me personally, I'm driving in with my family actually, and we're going to check in on Tuesday night because it takes all day to drive there from Northern California, and then we're going to stay through Monday. So that's kind of how we've worked it in the past. I've come in on Wednesday, and that's for most people. If you're an individual, you don't really have to get settled in. You're quick to do that. Wednesday night, is nice. I mean, also I will say Wednesday night's a nice like reunion time. Like, hey, good to see you. Let's go get some dinner, kind of thing, or preparing for the weekend, depending what you're doing. So I'm just going to select Wednesday through Monday just to kind of give you an idea of the time, and I'm just going to say 2 guests, just to give you an idea of what's happening. So close the little cookies thing. So, and because I'm going to give you a comparison of the different rooms, because I've stayed in all of the basic rooms in the Flamingo over the years, so I am familiar with them. Okay, so you're going to see a couple rooms here, and this is what's available. There might be other rooms that are available on other things, but this is what's available at the CombatCon rate. So they have these fab rooms that are, there's non-smoking and smoking rooms, king only or queen, 2 queen rooms. Those rooms, I'm just checking what other rooms are here. And then the go rooms. Okay. So the fab rooms are like the bare bones basic rooms. I think they cost the same as the go rooms. I think I have those right. But either way, they are just bare bones, a bed, a bathroom, a TV kind of stuff. So just keep that in mind. You're not looking at a lot of extra space available. And maybe for the majority of people, that's probably fine. You're probably not looking at much of a view. So just keep that in mind. And then there is the go room, which also you can see is at the same price point. And that is a similar room, slightly upgraded. I think it's just been renovated sooner. So just keep that in mind, that that will also affect which view you have. There's views where you don't really get much of a view. You're viewing the back of the Flamingo sign, or like the side of the building, which isn't that nice, or something like that. The other room is the Flamingo room. The Flamingo rooms tend to be in a separate tower, the Flamingo Tower. So there's a little bit more of a walk to the convention floor for CombatCon. Those tend to face the pool area, the back of the hotel. One thing I will say is I stayed in a Flamingo room for TSL3, is that they have these pool parties sometimes that go a little late, these concerts, and the thumping bass can be a little bit obnoxious. It's not super late that they go, but they go, 11 o'clock maybe, or something like that. And if you're really, tired and you can't sleep because of that, just keep that in mind. But they are nicer rooms. They are bigger rooms. They offer space to move around and put your stuff. The Flamingo rooms, I think, also might give you a fridge, I think. They have a lot of terms here, but just to let you know, that's another thing. There's no fridge or anything like that in the Flamingo room. That's the reason I paid extra, is because I wanted to be able to put a couple drinks and stuff like that. So having a mini fridge, you can rent a fridge, but I think it costs like $20-25 a day. So just keep that in mind. It wasn't a great mini fridge. It was just your bare bones, like, $80 fridge that you could get. So just keep that in mind. So if I just select, so another thing I would say is if you don't have someone coming with you, plan for your 2 guests. And unless you really are like, I'm a loner, I'm getting my own room, I would say get the 2 queens option, because if you can get a roommate, somebody needs a room, and they can they can be there and then take off half the cost. Great way to save money. That is a wonderful way. So just keep that in mind. I'm just going to select this, and you can kind of see they charge you more on the weekend and everything like that. Not a whole lot to really add to this right now. So I'm just going to, expand the window a little bit, and I might fix it. So not a whole lot to do. The rest of this, how to fill out a form. I don't need to go over all that stuff. But that is the basic thing for the CombatCon sign up. You can call them and give them a code as well. Call the Flamingo and give them a CombatCon code. When you use that code, it credits CombatCon that they got a certain amount of people to stay there. But on top of that, CombatCon usually in the past has given you like a piece of swag for booking under their code. So just keep that in mind. If you want something nicer, you're paying for a suite, you can do that. So double checking everything here. Cool. And then we have just checking okay, Mark is here. Cool. Thank you, Mark. So here's the other thing I'll talk about. So I'm going to go back here. All right. So the next thing, with the hotel, your other options outside of that. There are essentially there's essentially multiple options for, where you want to stay on the strip. If you want to stay somewhere else on the strip and you want to travel, drive or whatever to Flamingo, that's fine. The convenience of being in the Flamingo and walking right down to the con and having a place for your stuff to go cannot be understated or overstated, because it does just take a lot out of you if you are having to travel a farther distance. So if you're staying in an Airbnb, you're staying in a different hotel that's cheaper off the strip, there are definitely cheaper hotels. I mean, that's a good rate for a lot of hotels, but for the quality, for what you're getting, yeah, okay, you're paying for the location. That's mostly what you're paying for. So there are two things I'll mention. If you need a more like you want like a fridge, a stove, kind of those more suite kind of setups, like there is a Hilton Grand Vacations attached to the Flamingo. That's actually where I stayed at TSL4, and that's where I'm staying at TSL5 because my family's going to be there. So that gives you things like, a larger room, fridge, stove, depending on the suite you got, a microwave, all those things. So you can have a different experience. Now, it might cost a little more. It's because it's one of those like timeshare, like Hilton Grand Vacations is like one of their timeshare properties. So that's just something to keep in mind. The other thing I will mention about the hotel, I'll mention other like tips and tricks, but the other thing I will mention about the hotel, and one thing someone pointed out, was the room rates being, that's what, Melody, thank you. They do not include 13.38 room tax. So there is a tax on top of that. Anything you pay with your room, the cost of your room, the resort fee, that all counts for, plus sales tax, or room tax as they call it. So the Hilton Grand Vacations is back there. It's a really nice, quieter place. I will give it that. You get your own separate pool, so you don't have to like fight with the craziness if you want to go to a pool, but you don't want to do the crazy, like, I don't know. Their pool is like insane at the Flamingo. They have a couple options, but it is definitely more of a party atmosphere, the Vegas atmosphere that you expect. So that's why, another reason why I like staying at the Grand Vacations. That's also useful if you have a group of people and you don't all want to be in different rooms. You'd rather be in the same room. You can get like 2-bedroom suites there, and you can, that's like, I think it's like literally 2 rooms and like a kitchen. So you got like a sofa bed, you got like a king bed, you got another queen bed, another sofa bed. So you got a lot of options there. In addition to the space for like a kitchen and bathrooms and stuff like that. So costs a little more, but when you divide that amongst 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, 6 people, whatever, that could be a good saving. I can hear my voice getting a little throaty, so I'm just gonna. So, all right. The next thing I'll keep in mind, I wanted to mention about the hotel. Parking is not free. So if you are driving to CombatCon, if you are renting a car, it will cost you per day to park at the Flamingo. I can't remember the cost, and I'm going to look it up right now. Parking. So I'm just going to check here for 24 hours. So it's $15 a day, essentially, to park there. So that is something to keep in mind if you're going to be parking at. So that's going to be the cost if you're parking at the Flamingo Hotel. Parking, in my opinion, at the Flamingo as a regular guest is a nightmare. If you stay at the Hilton Grand Vacations, your parking is free, I'll mind you, and you get your own separate section. And I never had a problem parking. It's the same garage, but it's a special area. But again, costs more, right? So the parking though can be nightmarish depending when you arrive. I'll give you an example. We arrived in 2017. It was my wife who was pregnant at the time, my infant son, and well, I think he was more of a toddler, but whatever. Either way, we arrived. We got got up the driving a little late, so it was probably like 8, 9 o'clock. The check-in was super long. It was super long. I went up and it said, your room is not ready, even though it was 9 p.m., right? They said, oh, check back in an hour. And at that point, we had gone around the parking garage like 4 or 5 times to try to find a parking spot. That doesn't happen necessarily during the day, but at night, parking in that garage can be a nightmare, and there are literally no spots available that are ones you're allowed to park in. So just keep that in mind if you're taking a car, that can be a bad time. That was probably the worst thing. One of the worst experiences I had at the Flamingo and CombatCon was getting there at like 9 o'clock. Them saying the room's not ready for an hour, and we had just driven from Northern California, and couldn't get a parking spot at well. Like literally, I found out that it was going to take an hour while my wife was driving the vehicle around trying to find a parking space. And then on top of that, our room reeked of weed when we got to that room. So we literally changed rooms the next day because it was just like they did not clean that room properly. So it was kind of not a pleasant evening for my family. But they fixed it. The hotel fixed it and everything. But the parking itself can add a level of stress that is not that fun. So just keep that in mind when you're driving. If you need to drive, if you're within driving distance, or you're renting a car to go places, it can be difficult. So just keep that in mind. That's another thing to keep in mind. So if you need to go there in the day and you're at an Airbnb and you're driving to there, just keep in mind you're going to spend about $15 a day on that parking. And then on top of that, it could be times where it's difficult to find a space. So with that said, I'll move on to travel, flying, driving, because I started talking about a car as well. So if you are flying to Vegas, obviously you want to book now. I would recommend, you can look through the airlines directly, depending what city you're in, because certain cities have better rates. Like I know, like if you're in Minneapolis, there's like Sun Country Airlines, right? And that's like based out of Minneapolis, and you can sometimes get a good deal. If you're in, depending what city you're in, if there's a hub for that for a specific airline, I would recommend making sure you're being aware that you will need to check a bag. There's a lot you can do as far as what type of bag to have and everything. There's like a bird making a lot of noise outside. I don't know if you can hear that on my mic, but actually it's not a bird. That's some form of alarm. Either way. Anyways, it's just distracting because it's like a screeching. So anyway, when you're flying, look through, Kayak is a great site for looking at a lot of different sites. Southwest is nice. Sometimes can be expensive, but is nice because their bags fly free. You get 2 free checked bags. So that can save you money. Keep in mind of things like basic economy. Like for example, if you book United, and you book a basic economy option. Oh, I missed this comment here. And that was from Mark saying, pro tip, if you stay in a different hotel, get a bag with wheels. Yes, there are many different bags. I'm not going to go into detail about all the bags. Like I, for example, use what's called a sport tube. A little more expensive. It is used primarily for skis and snowboards, but it is a solid case that is like a long telescoping tube that has wheels on it. It is the best investment I've ever made in that, because if that thing breaks, it's got a lifetime warranty on it. And nothing has broken so far in a number of years. but it is super, super durable and fits everything and fits those long blades. If you're bringing a long sword because you're fighting in a longsword tournament, it's great. If you're going to buy a longsword there, you'll have somewhere to put it. It's a very, very awesome. And there's definitely other bag options. People use golf caddy cases and hockey bags and all kinds of stuff. So a hard case I would recommend if you're flying, most definitely. But a bag with wheels is super useful. The Hilton Grand Vacations is very close to the Flamingo, but I still have to walk a little ways. So having that wheeled bag is a lifesaver on your shoulders and your arms and your muscles. So keep that in mind. So back to flying. We are talking about, I said go to kayak. Basic economy. If you're booking through something like United and you book a basic economy fare, keep in mind they do not allow checked bags. You are allowed the bag that goes under your seat, and they don't allow carry-on bags, I'm sorry. So everything else has to be checked, and then you're going to pay them to check it. So you will have at least one bag. So if you can fit everything in your checked bag, you don't need a carry-on. If like your clothes, your saber stuff, your gear, all of that can fit, and it's under 50 pounds, go right ahead and do that. I just want to make you aware that some of those basic economy things can be tricky because they are purposely taking out certain things and giving you a good rate. So just keep that in mind. And that's why I also like to factor that in. Nice thing with kayak is you can mark whether, I'm checking in. Sorry, just taking off my glass for a sec, fixing my hair. Checking on kayak is you can mark off how many bags you're going to have, and it'll add in the extra cost to kind of so you can figure it out when you're planning. So that's my tip for travel. If you obviously have like status or something like that, or you have a credit card through an airline, that's always a good thing to do because you always get some sort of perk if you have it. I'm not saying sign up for a credit card. I'm saying for the future, that's a good tip to do. Does the Flamingo have a shuttle? And that is from Joe. So, Joe, the Flamingo does not have a shuttle. So that is the next thing I was going to talk about, actually. So you fly there, you got your ticket. I'm assuming everybody's bought their ticket. They have everything. You fly to CombatCon. You get to McCarran Airport. Here's some tips for McCarran Airport. No, there is not a shuttle. It is on you to get there. So sometimes you can plan out when people are arriving. Sometimes that works out. I mean, I know that we got delayed in 2000. We were renting a car with my family because they were going to be traveling to different attractions and stuff around the city while I was at CombatCon. But we were renting a car out of the airport. Our flight got delayed because there were thunderstorms around Vegas. And then we had to land at Ontario Airport in Southern California to refuel, then go to Vegas. And by the time we landed, Joe Strange from Indiana was there and was asking on our TSL message thread, which we'll set one up when it gets closer to the event for all the attendees, so you can talk and plan things and do all the social things. And he's like, "Hey, is anybody at the airport that can do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna, as long as you don't mind being with my family, we're gonna have a minivan and we're gonna drive to the hotel." So that worked out great. Joe helped us actually carry some bags because we were not in a good mood when a less than 2 hour flight became a 3 hour flight. That was not a fun time, especially when your daughter misses her nap because of it. So that was something that happened. A lot of people were planning like, "Hey, I'm planning to land at 4 o'clock. Oh, I'm planning to land at 4:20." They hang out in the airport for 20 minutes and then okay, great. They share a cab or an Uber or a Lyft. So there is no shuttle. That is a key thing. Let me see. I'll just see what Mark's saying. Okay, for flying, my bag is always close to that 50 pounds. It adds up so quick to make sure to weigh it before going to the airport. Yes, actually, I will give you a luggage tip. Here's a great luggage tip. And if you can get one of those luggage things where it's like a little hook and you just grab that, you pick up the luggage by it and it tells you how heavy it is. Those are great. They don't cost much, but if you're not traveling a lot, that's not really useful. You have a scale in your house. Weigh yourself with as you are, then pick up the bag and then just subtract the total from what you weighed. and then, you know, pretty much within, you know, a few, like a couple, you know, a couple decimal points, what your bag weighs. I did that a lot. That's before I finally bought a luggage scale. It is very commonly that I'm about at like 49.7 or something like that. And keep in mind that those airport ones will trick you, and then suddenly it's 0.2. So give yourself some room. Try to be about 49 pounds. Don't try to push it just there, because if you get over, not every attendant is as nice as some attendants are nicer than others when you're checking in there. And then you're basically could be looking at either paying the heavy bag fee, and that's a big thing. Oh yeah, another thing about flying, if you're taking that, you're in a long case that is essentially an oversized case. I would say that you want to. What I have, because it's a ski thing. If you call it out and say, you know, it's props, certain airlines are like, oh, if it's not this type of sporting equipment, you're going to pay X amount of dollars for a regular sized bag. So if you are flying with like a golf case or something like that, just say it's golf clubs. Just say it's skis. I say it's skis all the time. I just say skis. It doesn't matter that I'm flying to Vegas in the middle of summer. It's skis. Nobody ever asks past that, ever. I've flown dozens of times with that sport tube. Nobody has ever inquired past that. But I know that some airlines, if you say, "Oh, I have fencing equipment in there," they get very particular and they have very weird regulations. So just keep that in mind. That's not a thing. So account for any extras you might buy while you're there. Yes, I will talk about that. Okay, so that was just another tip for flying, checking your bag and that kind of stuff. Checking your bag, hilts can come with you a lot of times on your carry-on. I always put everything in the check bag, and I put a little note in to say that it's like basically lightsaber props, and that they should repack it carefully. You are not going to be able to bring the blades 9 times out of 10 with you. Occasionally, people have done the old poster tube trick, and they've done that, and they've been able to take 1 or 2. But it's very likely that you might have to check it. You very might have to check your hilts. It depends on who you get at TSA. So just keep that in mind. I check everything. The battery rule that people read about and say you can't put the rechargeable batteries in does not apply to that small of a battery. If you have like a power bank, like one of those power bank bricks, I have one behind me, but or behind this camera that's being used. But if you have one of those, there are limitations to that. But the simple batteries, you can't have loose batteries in there. So if you're gonna have your spares, put that in your carry-on. But do not. You are okay just having a hilt with the battery in there. That's fine. It's not an issue. You can check it. There's a lot of back and forth about that where that gets confusing. So, all right, going back to, we landed. How are you going to get to the hotel? So you could rent a car. I talked about the parking. There's going to be cost of that car. If you're trying to save money, don't rent a car. So weird things about McCarran Airport in Vegas is that the ride share pickup is in the parking garage. So you have to walk from the airport terminal to the parking garage to get your ride share. You cannot have it pull up to the curb for you because of the deal that they have with the taxi cab drivers. That is where Uber and Lyft go. They do not pick up at the curb. They will not pick you up at the curb. They will only pick you up in that pickup area, which is like the third floor or second or third floor of the parking garage. It's a little bit of a walk. It's not a huge walk, but after a flight and it's 100 degrees outside or 110 if you're arriving during the day, depending. And then you go into a parking garage that is made of stone and it's like an oven. Maybe not the best idea. So my tip, take a cab. As long as the cab can fit your gear. That's the big thing. Just make sure the cab can fit your gear. I would not worry about the cost differences because the convenience, in my opinion, is much more worth it. I think the difference between an Uber I took and a cab, and that might also just be to when I took it, was probably like $5-6. It was not a huge amount. So it's not worth the hassle of having to do that. And then everybody's doing it and they're all waiting. I literally one year, TSL3, pulled up to the, walked out of the terminal, went up to the cab stand. There was one person in front of me in line. Granted, if the line's long, you might wait, but I feel like a lot more people are using ride shares. So, but I took the cab, got in the cab, was great driver. Didn't cost me much. You know, they even offer to do things like, oh, do you need to stop off at I think it's called like Liquor World or something like that, like the giant liquor store that they have. And I'm like, nope, I'm good. Or the dispensary or something like that. Like that's a big thing after the airport is people go get all that stuff for their Vegas weekend. But it was not a bad experience. It was just, you know, worked. I walked right into it. So my suggestion, if there's not a lot, you know, if you don't have a specific reason for taking an Uber or a Lyft, take a cab. It's the experience. It's a short ride. It's like 10, 15 minutes. It's not a big deal. You know, and you don't have to have, you know, do anything fancy. They call it for you and everything. And like I say, the cost is negligible. So, Chris Nguyen, how you doing? How you doing, sir? I was fortunate in my situation. I had a rifle case and told them it was fencing swords, and they didn't bat an eye. That will depend on the airline. I've seen, if you read the sporting equipment, policy for each airline, and I've read them for like United, Southwest, Delta, American, because those are all ones I've flown, and I try to make sure I'm doing that. Yes, so it clarified it is the second floor. I think that is still a nightmare scenario because I just don't feel like waiting. And if I save $5 to do that walk, it's not worth the $5. I can save $5 elsewhere. So many other places I can save $5 in Vegas. I mean, maybe it's more depending on the time, but yeah. So Chris said his was Delta. So that's my tip there is take a cab from the airport. There are shuttle services, but if you really are pinching pennies, take a shuttle. They exist. You can get in a van and stuff like that. I just prefer to just get there as quickly as possible. So just keep that in mind that you want to, you know, just make the situation, especially the amount of time you spend outdoors in Vegas, to a limited point. You don't need to go outdoors and be hanging out in a brick oven parking garage, which is what it feels like at times. So just keep that in mind. And that's night and day, because, you know, the stone absorbs all that heat and then it just expels it, right? So that is my tip for flying and getting to the airport. Driving, yeah, I know it's a dry heat, but yeah, you know, it is a dry heat, but it's just not fun. What I'll say is the dry heat's not bad. It's that, and I know you're in Arizona and now you're used to it, Mark, but the dry heat's not bad. It's just that when you get in a parking garage, that's when it becomes oppressive. You know, it's bad if you're standing in direct sunlight and it's 110 degrees. Yeah, that's bad. But most of the time, if you're walking in and out of the shade or like, you know, and everything, like walking down the strip, it's not too bad, right? You're not going to sweat or anything like that. But when you're in a parking garage, it is so uncomfortable, in my opinion. So, but anyway, that is my tip for getting to the airport. Next thing is, so we've booked a flight, we've booked CombatCon, we've booked the hotel. Say we're staying in the Flamingo. We're not doing a rental car. The next thing to consider is just tips for getting around, you know, getting your bearings. So if you can do any auto check-in ahead of time with the Flamingo, do it. There is almost always, it varies, but during peak times of the day, early afternoon, when normal check-in happens, late at night, there is always a super line to check in. They have like a computer check-in, and if you do some auto check-in ahead of time, it can save you a little bit of time because they can give you your room card and everything like that right there. You don't have to talk to a person. If you have something specific you need to talk to somebody about, then you need to get in the line, and sometimes that can be short or long. I've waited in lines of 15 people that took me 5 minutes to get to see someone, and I waited in a line of 5 people that took me like 30 minutes to see someone. So just keep that in mind, that it varies there. So wear long sleeves unless you're going out, unless you're only going out at night. I will agree with that. You will burn if you have pale skin, or a fair complexion. You will burn. I mean, granted, you will burn no matter what the pigment of your skin is. But it's just like, just keep that in mind. Long sleeves are a good idea. Great thing is the like compression kind of stuff. Because it won't, they tend to, especially the ones that keep you cool, not the ones that keep you warm, because they just tend to protect you, and they have UV protection. So those performance shirts, like the one I have, that says like it has UV protection, those are really nice, and the long sleeve ones are great too. So good tip there. Okay, well, he also says, Chris says, or the locusts will attack. Well, I know it's cicadas this year in areas, but last year, or at TSL4, there was the grasshopper invasion. Fortunately, most of the invasion kind of passed us. It was still there a little bit, but the grasshopper invasion was an interesting thing from TSL4. So if you look up some videos of that, where like people are walking on the strip and everything's just covered in grasshoppers. So that was an interesting time. Like I say, we just missed that. Go with cotton or wool pretty much only. I hate polyester. That's your call. I'm just giving an option. Performance shirts can be a good. In reality, in my opinion, the most comfortable non-performance style shirt is going to be like a tri-blend, and that's going to breathe well, and it has some synthetic properties as well. So tri-blends are great shirts. They cost a little more, but I have a couple like event shirts that they did a tri-blend in, and it's just really nice. So, but we're not talking about fashion, and packing. I'm going to leave to you as far as like what you need. There are tips as far as like things you should have. You should have something to protect yourself from the sun. If you don't have sunscreen, buy sunscreen, and everything. So anyway, we're at the hotel. You get checked in. Like I said, do any check-in you can do online as much as possible. That will get you to your room faster. You're in your room. Great. All right. Hook up with people via the Facebook thread. Great option. Thursday morning, if you are fighting in a tournament or volunteering for a TSL tournament, you are allowed to register or check into CombatCon registration early. That is on the fourth, I think I'm remembering it properly, the fourth floor of the convention of the hotel. And it's not difficult to get there. There are multiple ways you can get there: by elevator, you can get there by escalator, from multiple access points. And then there's usually signs that will guide you from the elevators all the way down. It's a long, long hallway walk. It's like walking down one hallway, another hallway, another hallway, another hallway, and you get to the end of all the ballrooms and you're there. So back to the cabs. What bills should I carry? An assorted amount, mostly 10s or 20s. My opinion, you can pay any cab in cash. You don't have to pay a cab in cash. They are all taking credit cards at this point. Have some cash, but you do not need it. You can charge it to your card, your check card, whatever. They take, Visa, MasterCard, all that kind of stuff. It's all digital. You do not need to pay in cash, and I assume they probably don't want you to. I don't necessarily carry a whole lot of cash. Now, I will say carrying a certain amount of cash can be a good thing to help yourself stay under budget. But for a cab, I don't know, you never know what kind of change they have or something like that. That's an issue I've run into, paying cash in a cab. So I just pay with a credit card. It's easier. They tend not to charge you for that. I'm pretty sure they don't in Vegas. I know some cities or some cab companies might. I think I've had that in San Francisco, where they charge you like a 1% fee on the credit card. But just keep that in mind. Now, what I will say also is, I said take a cab to the airport, right? You do not need to stick with that. If you prefer rideshare versus a cab, either are a good option from the Flamingo. There's a stop right across from the hotel lobby. And when I say right across, outside from the hotel lobby, we mean just like, you have to walk past the traffic circle that's in front of the lobby. So, and that's where the cabs would pick you up. But either option works. So you can run rideshare, Uber, Lyft to the to the lobby. So that part is easier. It's literally just the airport pickup part that's a pain in the butt. So all the other stuff is fine. So that's something to keep in mind. As I said, so going back to Thursday, if you are checking in because you're fighting that day, you're a volunteer, with TSL or with CombatCon, you're allowed to check in early. But those are the only reasons you can check in. Otherwise, they will not let you check in for CombatCon until. Actually, you know what? I don't exactly know. That might be changing, but technically, opening ceremonies for CombatCon are on Thursday night, and then Friday is the primary check-in for most people. So just have that, understand that that is a thing. So the Joe or Mark said about definitely have cash. Yes, have cash for other things, but I would say things you can pay with a card. Make sure you do. Yeah, call your bank. That is a good tip. If you're traveling and you don't travel a whole lot, that is a good tip, because I have had it once or twice where I've gotten a call, try to pay for something, and I got a call and they're like, "Hey, are you in Las Vegas right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in Las Vegas." And they're like, "Okay, cool. We'll release the thing." So depending on your bank, that might be a concern. Splitting food bills on food, drinks. Yes, but trick I've learned from many times splitting meals is that one, sometimes they will be generous and they will split it out. Or the thing you do is you get the responsible person, which 9 times out of 10 is like me. There is a app that is great called, it's the people that made the Cash app, I think. Let me see if I can find it. Splitwise. No, not Splitwise. Let's see. Not Splitwise. Splitwise is a sharing app, but it is called Plates. It's the same people that made Splitwise. And basically, if you can kind of see, it's like, how many plates did you have? Okay. What's the cost of the bill? Let's just say $200, right? That's expensive, but that's the subtotal before tax and tip. Okay, you enter what the tax is, and let's just say it's, $20, right? And then you can say split it equally or enter the bill items, and then you can start to enter who paid, who got what. All right, and then it'll do this for you. It's a free app. It's probably on Android and iOS. It is a great option to kind of figure that out. The other thing you can do with that is once you get that and you figure out, okay, I owe $32.66 for this meal, and they owe this, and they owe this, is you just say, okay, here's what I want you to do. Here's this card, right? This card I want you to charge this amount. You just write it down on the receipt for your server, and you say, okay, $32.66. All right, $73 for this person, and this, right? They will ring your cards up, and then basically you will pay your tip separately. So that handles the cost of everything, and you can just, as if you write it down, your server will help you with that. So just keep that in mind. I'll give you that tip because that is a wonderful thing for splitting, is using either Splitwise but you can tell a server, here's 3 cards, charge this amount, charge this amount, charge this amount. And then they just play a little, who's David, who's Mark, who's Joe. And then they just give you your card, and then you write in your own tip. The tipping's on, you're not having to all agree on it or something like that. So, and that still works with cash people too. They can pay that and then say, put that into the tip, and then that works. So you don't have to do that. So cool. I talked about ride shares. I talked about CombatCon. A lot of times you can go to the opening ceremony without having checked in or registered to CombatCon. So if you're not registered yet, because they say, hey, you need to come back on Friday because you're not doing anything on Thursday that requires you to check in, because the only thing happening on Thursday are tournaments, TSL and HEMA, and volunteers. So that's the only things happening on Thursday right now. So I don't know if that's changing, but I think that is how they do it. And then the opening ceremony Thursday night, which we want everybody to go to this year. But you can go to that. You don't have to be checked in for that. That is where you get all the great tips of like, hey, this is going to happen to you. Hey, this is something that the hotel wants us to know. Like, you know, there's just things you need to know, like the food on the convention floor. It's a very big, it's a rule you have to follow. It's listed on CombatCon's website, but it's just something to keep in mind. So. Now, are there any other questions? I can keep talking for a long time, but are there any other questions? I'm hitting about an hour. I didn't want to go much longer than an hour. I will talk about a couple other things I do to do this, and I'll talk about some budget saving tips that I have, and it just depends what's good, what works for you. So if there are those questions, feel free to ask them now. But one thing I will say that I do, even whether I have a car, whether I don't have a car, whether it doesn't matter where I'm staying, in most places I go to, I will get I'll usually go to a Target. I'll take an Uber or a taxi to a Target, and I will get the essential snacks that I need. That is because anything you buy on the strip is going to be exceedingly overpriced. That is, so obviously you can't really, if you don't have a refrigerator, you can't do refrigerated snacks, but you can, that's where I get my RX bars and Cliff bars, and like I get like some beef jerky and stuff like that, and I get other drinks that I can have, like I get coconut water and stuff like that for for just like for electrolytes, whatever works for you. But get the things you need to. I get it at Target off the strip. It's fairly inexpensive. You're not paying the strip prices, and then you don't have to worry about certain meals. Sometimes that's enough that you can, like, if you can figure out, like I've done, like, some like canned tuna and like some crackers and stuff like that, and then another couple other things, and that's good, and that covers me for one meal that I need quickly. So going to like a Target, a Walmart, a grocery store. I guess you can also, now that delivery is an option, I don't know how that works in Vegas. I've done it in Disney World in Orlando, and that works pretty well. Where you can just go on to like one of the apps, like the Amazon app for Whole Foods, or Instacart or something like that, and you can like just book everything there. If you want that convenience, you're going to pay a little more, but maybe it costs the same as a rideshare, the cost of it. So Mark's saying cinnamon raisin bread was most of what I ate. That's not too bad. You can get some really good bread that is like just like really replenished. Like it costs more, but Dave's Killer Bread, like if you can put something on bread that you don't need to refrigerate, Dave's Killer Bread has like a lot of good stuff in it. You can get versions with like a lot of protein, or like other things, like other nutrition that you need when you're fighting in these tournaments. Like I had at my job, they were offering like free nutritionists, like consultations, and I asked about like, what would I do? I'm going to these tournaments. What would I do? And they said, now this obviously requires a refrigerator, but they were saying like, oh, have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, like with real fruit, jelly, and like, real peanut butter without like all the additives and stuff, and like a natural peanut butter, and like on like a Dave's Killer Bread. And they're like, that's like some of the best like nutrition that is sustaining that you can have to carry you a little bit longer. So just keep that in mind. Water is not really an issue if you don't mind drinking the what I do is I don't drink the water from the sink. Don't do that. If you want to, you can get like one of those straw filters, or you can get a water bottle. I have a Brita water bottle that I use that has like a filter in it that I can just drink from the straw, and it goes through a water filter. Do that if you're drinking the tap water. The water that they have in the hotel, in the convention rooms, is provided by the hotel, is perfectly good. So I don't really go out and buy bottled water. That's up to you. If you go to Target and you buy a whole pack of it and you feel that's going to last you the weekend, that's great. I just just prefer to have a water bottle. It's just an easier thing for me. But yeah, those are like some like tips I can have, is go get some food that you need for the weekend. Make sure you have that kind of stuff. if you do that, that's a great place to get sunscreen or sunscreen spray. I use the spray. Get something really high SPF. Do not underestimate that sun, because you will burn if you're going outside. So if you're like, I'm going to go to the Hoover Dam, if you go to the Hoover Dam and you're outside at the Hoover Dam, you need sunscreen and you need the good stuff, the really high quality stuff. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, that is pretty much everything that I was going to mention. There are other tips and tricks. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've run into. I mentioned about the rooms, like how if you're in the Flamingo Tower and you're facing the pool area, that can be super annoying with like the bass from some of their concerts. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Beyond that, that is pretty much like most of the tips. I would say, do not underestimate eating. Getting yourself a meal. This time there are mandatory meal breaks. Use those for eating meals. That is important. You will. Here's some budget tips I'll talk about. If you go out to eat every single meal, there is a small food court where it's like there's not a Sabaros there, but think like Sabaros. Like it's your typical like mall food court. Like it's like 6 places. Like I think there's a Johnny Rockets, like a small Johnny Rockets or something. Yeah, hydrate or die. Pretty much that is a accurate statement if you're outside in Vegas. So, but hydrate or die also in the tournaments as well. But the tip I would say is like, yeah, there's like a little like food court area. That's like the cheapest food you're gonna find. If you're not doing like my tip of like, going to Target or getting a grocery delivery or something like that, that's like the cheapest food. It's in like the middle of the casino. It's like literally tucked away in like a little corner of the casino. But there's, like I say, Johnny Rockets and a salad place and a sandwich place, and it's your typical like stuff you would find at a mall food court. There is the promenade that's between the Link and the Flamingo. It's literally right out the door. There's a bunch of good places to eat there, but a lot of places that are going to cost a lot of money. There is some great food there. I could recommend food all day, but I'm not going to recommend anything. But In-N-Out Burger is there. That's going to be like the inexpensive fast food. Not that that's going to be supremely healthy, but it is going to be the most inexpensive, I think, in that promenade area. There is a Carlos and Charlie's has a meal deal with CombatCon where like you spend $22 and you can get like a full like a tacos, burritos, burrito bowl. Like you get like a certain things like a drink, this and that. Like you get it, and have them ready to go. It's like a basic thing where like it only costs you $22. You can get that meal and you're good. Carlos and Charlie's is the Mexican restaurant that's attached to the casino right near the lobby. It's good food. It's good. It's not bad. So I've been there a couple times. So that's another place to go. And then, yeah, so those are places you can go to save money on food. You're still going to spend a lot of money if you're just getting all your meals prepared. One tip I'll give you for breakfast, if you're not doing a grocery delivery, there is a CVS pharmacy that is down by Bally's. It's about, I'd say, the equivalent of like a two city block, maybe a little less walk. It's not too bad. You go there early in the morning. You go to the CVS. You can grab some. I did this one year. You grab some yogurt. You grab like another thing, like something else you need, like something else refrigerated that you can't get. I think I grabbed like an orange juice and a yogurt in the morning, and that was not that expensive. It was probably slightly inflated for the strip, but much cheaper than if I went down to the food counter or the quick service counter that they have there and got a yogurt and an orange juice. I'm probably going to save $7-8 off that by just going to that CVS and getting that. And they'll even give you a spoon at the CVS. So that's something that's really useful. And my camera is okay, cool. Most of the chains will be around their normal prices. Yes, that is, yeah, Mark. Special places will be much more expensive unless you're off the strip. Yeah, I mean, there's always things you can go off the strip. You can save money off the strip, but obviously when you're between tournaments and you're between classes, whatever you're doing, you're going to spend more money or more time. I mean, the further away you go. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of food, different food you can get. Yeah, the chains aren't super expensive. It's just if you eat at a chain all the time, you're going to spend a lot of money. It's just something. It's just a fact of life on that. So there's a lot of chains around there, a lot of different options. And what's part of it is that they draw you in with more fancy chains. Like, I mean, and I say fancy, I mean like just nicer than your average Applebee's or Chili's, right? Like Guy Fieri's is like it's Guy Fieri. If you know Guy Fieri, it's exactly the type of food you want. Everything has donkey sauce on it, and everything is over the top. It costs a little more. It's a little more than a chain because it's a name. The one place I will say that everybody goes to, that you must go to at least once in Vegas as a group meal, is Hash House A Go-Go. That's in the link right next door. It's not too far. It is a wonderful breakfast place. They serve breakfast all the time. They have non-breakfast foods, but it's a breakfast place. Go there and eat breakfast foods. And they serve super oversized, and when I say oversized, I mean oversized food. And it's really over the top, but it's really good food. That is a good place to go to get a good amount of food, and it's where a lot of people are probably going to go. I mean, I think I go there at least 3 times, 3-4 times, a couple years back. So just keep that in mind. And then Kevin, who is using the Discord, so thank you, Kevin, for using the Discord, is Hofbrauhaus. I don't know where Hofbrauhaus is, so I'm not familiar with it. I assume that's like a carvery where you can get like a sandwich. If I'm comparing it to the Hofbrauhaus that is up here in Northern California, not the same brand, but or chain, but it's similar. A carvery, and you can get German beer. So I'm guessing. Tell me where that is. I don't know. Food recommendations beyond that. I really like going to Gordon Ramsay Fish and Chips. It's literally like a counter service thing. You go in, you get some fish and chips. They have these really cool, really good shakes that are really good. They have really good lemonades that are really good. You can get just fish and chips, really good. So that's okay, Mark. I'm not even going to ask him what Discord is. If you don't know if you know what Discord is, search for the post from last week about I think it was last week, might have been before that, but the TSL Discord, another platform. And as Kevin said, it is something beyond Mark's understanding. Mark is a Luddite when it comes to technology. So, Gordon Ramsay Fish and Chips is a place I tend to go to for one of my meals that's not super healthy. There are a bunch of other restaurants. There's, like I say, there's a quick service counter in the Flamingo. I don't tend to go there because the food is literally your average cafeteria stuff, and it is expensive for what you get. There is buffets. Obviously, Vegas has buffets. Sometimes there's going to be lines. That is something that you go to when you are not needing to be somewhere. So just keep that in mind. That's after all the things end at CombatCon or something like that. There's obviously super nice restaurants and all that stuff. You can plan that, go to Hell's Kitchen, which Caesars is right across the street. You can go to Hell's Kitchen or Gordon Ramsay Pub and Grill. There's a theme. I like Gordon Ramsay stuff. So I've been to every Gordon Ramsay restaurant in Vegas. There's, he has a couple all throughout, but he has 2 in Caesars and the one in the fish and chips in the link. So that there's a lot of good food, a lot of good places to go, and you can figure out how to save money. One way to save money is don't buy your alcohol. If you're drinking, don't buy your alcohol from the bars, the restaurants. They're going to upcharge you to no end. If you're okay with not drinking when you go out, I don't really drink. So German style eating. Okay, so it's German style eating. Yeah, then it's going to be your, probably I'm assuming Spätzle and all the different types of bratwurst and stuff like that. And why am I? My last name is Laudenslager, and I literally, why am I blanking on schnitzel? That's what I was trying to think of. There's a lot of good options there if you like German food, like I do. Where is it, Kevin? Tell me where it is, because I don't know where in relation to the Flamingo is it. So there are off-strip restaurants you can go to, as well, and you can save some money on that. That is something I do not know as well as other people would. But just keep in mind, the amount of time it takes for you if you are driving a car to go from one place to another, and then you have to park. There are places you can walk to, different hotels that aren't too far you can walk to, a lot of walking, but you can get there and you can eat there depending what you want. But the Flamingo has probably the best selection of like the budget places. If you go to Caesars, if you go to the Bellagio, if you go down to, you could go to the Venetian and they could find some stuff there, but that's a little further up. And like Bally's, you can find some stuff as well. It's not too bad. And you can go down to Planet Hollywood, which is a little further down the strip. And then there's the Miracle Mile, and there's a lot of places to eat there. So it's 10 minutes away and it's closed currently. Well, I assume if it's a buffet, that's I don't know how buffets are working. I assume they are like having someone there and you say, I want some of that, I want some of that, I want some of that, and they put it on your plate for you. Because, there's still going to be probably some restrictions or things like that, or precautions that they're taking, even with most restrictions maybe being removed. So, we'll see if the Hofbrauhaus is something. So, but those are the kind of the things around there. Look at what's there. See what you can do for your meals. My suggestion is plan if you can do 1 to 2 meals a day that are not at a restaurant. You can save a lot of money, right? It doesn't have to be every day, but like if most days you can do 2 meals, like through stuff you got through a grocery delivery, you will save more money than almost anything else you do. Like I said about drinking and stuff like that, I don't really drink, I only drink sparingly, and especially on a tournament weekend, I will not drink at all because I do not want anything that's going to take my my focus off the tournament. So, but that's me. Enjoy yourself, have a good time. It's it's like Oktoberfest. Explains a lot why they're still closed. Yeah, it's like Beer Garden in Epcot in Disney World. So, if we ever have a TSL tournament in Disney World specifically, I could talk for hours about the different things you could do about Disney World. So that's something, we'd have to get big enough to be at like the Wild World of Sports Complex, but one can dream, right, that we could have a Disney World specific TSL tournament. So yeah, it's like Beer Garden, sounds like. Okay, so food, we talked about the hotel, we talked about some of the basics. With CombatCon, with the convention floor, you're going to do a whole lot of walking. You want to minimize the amount of walking that you can do, so make sure you have what you need for most of the day. There is a gear check that they are going to do. I'm with CombatCon where it's like $10. I guess it's $10 a day. I don't remember the exact thing, but you can store that overnight. So if you don't want to carry all your gear down, have gear spray of some sort, something to disinfect your gear, because my God, the smell after for some people after 3-4 days of sparring, fighting, whatever, it's not a pleasant smell. So just be kind to yourself and others, and get some disinfectant spray. If you're, depending where you are, hang your stuff up to dry in your room. I think you can usually get some of the rooms. I think the bathrooms have a clothesline that you can just, you can draw out and then just hang stuff. That'll just at least help it dry out somewhat. So I think that is every tip that I can think of right now. I might have 50 more CombatCon ones or something like that. The big things with CombatCon is enjoy the other things. Enjoy the other things that CombatCon does. Don't just be involved in the TSL stuff. If you're not like one of the volunteers like myself running all these things, it's a good idea to just think about that. So, yes, if you take your helmet at least back with you to air out. If you're wearing like a Gambison or a HEMA jacket, you need to take that thing, because that thing is what's going to smell most of the time. And if you don't think you smell, you smell. You probably do. Everybody's going to have some type of odor. It just depends how bad it's going to be by the end, depending how much you've sweated and how much you've disinfected it. Just keep that in mind, because the ability to wash stuff is extremely limited. If you're at the Hilton Grand Vacations, there's there. I'm assuming they have laundry. I don't know if they have self-service laundry at the Flamingo that's coin operated. I've never investigated that myself. So if you have like, just your regular clothes that you can wash, just keep that in mind, that's not necessarily an option. So, walking through everything as everything wraps up. They're going to say about don't have your weapons, any weapons visible when you're walking through the casino floor, because security will get on you about that. So just pro tip, don't do that. That's bad. Yeah, well, you can laugh about that. I'm talking about smell. It's not a fun thing, but I mean, all of my gear has a certain odor to it, and I can wash it to a certain degree. I can sanitize it to a certain degree to get it to a point of neutral, but over time it will smell. So whatever you can do to control that, and also you do not want to be in like a damp gear, man. Cold, damp gear is like, I would say, is probably the most uncomfortable gear. So, if whatever you can do to mitigate that, please do so. Have, extra stuff about what you need, obviously all that stuff like clothes, sabers. We're going to talk about that later in the Road to CombatCon series, is like, talk about sabers, talk about the gear, but those are just things you want to think about now. Start thinking about as you're planning. So if you're already booked everything, you're all booked, you're ready to go, starting to think about other things, get your checklist together. What do you need? What is everything you need? Is there any backups that you need? How much is it going to cost me? You can go on a lot of menus are available for Vegas, so you can look at them and you can a lot of times see what the prices are. So you can kind of get an idea of like, oh, this is what I would eat, and that's going to cost me. Oh, that's going to cost me $35. So just keep that in mind as you're trying to budget it. Look at those options as far as get into a grocery store or a Target or like a Whole Foods. I say Whole Foods only because I don't even know if there is a Whole Foods nearby, but I say it because like Amazon would, if you have Amazon Prime, you can get like discounted Whole Foods delivery. Just because like that's a convenient thing if you already have Prime. So just different tips I can think of. If you don't have Instacart, you can sign up and you can get, a lot of times you can sign up for those different things and you can get the first time discounts. So like if you've never used Lyft or Uber before, or you've only used one and you've not used the other, sign up when you're there use one of those promo codes that they throw out that's like 30% off your first ride, and use it for your most expensive ride. Do that for Instacart, or something like that. So I think Target has one through Shipt, SHIPT. So those are different options for saving money on those things. You're going to spend money. It's, control how much you're going to spend. You're going to get tempted by the different vendors. So try to plan out in advance how much money you're going to spend on that. Don't just binge through everything or go through it and then be tempted. Have an idea of how much is a reasonable purchase. And if you need it, for example, Purple Heart Armory is going to be there. If you call Purple Heart, like say now, and it's something that they regularly have in stock and you need something, sometimes you can save on shipping if you needed that gear, and Purple Heart, in their kind-heartedness, will bring it with them and say, okay, oh, it's you. Okay, cool. Let's just get you these, elbow guards or whatever. So that's a thing to consider with some of the vendor, well, with Purple Heart anyway, but with some of the vendors, like, you're going to want to spend money. Find out where you can save that money and spend it on the things you want. There are a lot of cool things. There are a lot of cool things that you don't necessarily need as a fighter in TSL. So that's just something to keep in mind. There's things I could say as far as like tournament tips, but some of that's going to be down to tournament prep, which is a later subject. So I don't need to talk about that. Do we have any last questions before I log off? I'm just going to check that now. So if there aren't any, I'm going to sign out. And next week, the plan is to have a Q&A with Charlie Cummings talking about answering any questions you have that are TSL specific about TSL5 and CombatCon that he can answer. And in reality, pretty much everybody who is going to be on this, Mark, Garrico, myself, Jared, Graham, all of them are going to have been to CombatCon. They've all been to a TSL tournament at CombatCon. So they can answer those questions for you. Just based on their experience, but also just from their collective information they've gathered over the years. So that is going to wrap it up for me. And yeah, because really good practical advice. Cool. I'm glad I could help out Melody. So yeah, that is going to wrap it up for me. So feel free to direct people to this video because it is still here. If there are other questions that people have, I can try to answer them. Maybe we're going to go week to week with this and have a specific topic. But if there's need for something, like for example, we need another one of these where we're just talking about all the CombatCon tips. Maybe I'll bring someone on. Maybe we can do it when we were going to have the holiday break for July 4th, but maybe we can do it then. There's a possibility, but you'll see things like Q&As, talking about tournament gear, talking about sabers, talking about line judging, talking about all the different things that are going to be happening with the TSL tournament that is taking place at CombatCon. Just trying to answer every question that we can, so you don't, so you can avoid some of the pitfalls that people have run into. So you can have the best weekend possible. You don't have to worry about missing something, doing something wrong, forgetting something, and then you're not able to participate, or you're not able to participate to the level you want, or you can't go out with anyone or something like that. So we want you to have a safe and successful vacation. Even though it is a tournament, it is competitive. I don't plan to just sit on my laurels, but basically, we want to make sure everybody has fun and experiences the community that is CombatCon, the community that is TSL. And if you're new to it and you don't, say you're traveling solo, you don't really have many people in your charter, feel free to talk to people. Get in on the messenger thread, because 9 times out of 10, most people are like, hey, I want to go to dinner. Who wants to go to dinner? You can always say, I want to go to dinner. Cool. Where do you want to go? And then everybody figures it out. So, there is no harm in wanting to tag along with people. Yes, people have their own groups and crews that they hang out with, but majority of them, I would assume, have no issue with another fellow member who's there on their first tournament. First time in Vegas, just, trying to get engaged with the community. So that's all my tips. Like I say, enjoy more tips next week from Charlie and some of the other members of Quaran-TV. So until then, take care, get prepared for CombatCon, start exercising, start doing what you need to do to be the best you can be at CombatCon for the best possible TSL5. And then take care.